Long time no see, Gothamites. Gotham's 5th and final season is just around the corner now, and I'm sure we're all excited and heartbroken all at the same time. Truth be told, I owe a lot to Gotham. I owe the early success of my YouTube channel to Gotham, as well as how I met my girlfriend Liz. So I figured, what better way to prepare for the dawn of the Dark Knight than to have a big pre-Season 5 celebration of Gotham on Channel Pop, the home of Gotham speculation, critique, and fan theories. Not so much news though, you've got Boba Talks for that. So coming up in this video, I'm going to be discussing with you my thoughts on each season of Gotham, how far the characters have come, what worked and what didn't work so well, the new Alfred series coming after Gotham, and how Gotham can survive after its ending. As per the usual, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you do, please subscribe for more on Gotham among other hit shows and media. Same bad time, same bad channel. Well, not so much same time, who cares? I feel like Gotham tends to get an unfair rap when it comes to where it takes place in the grand scheme of the Batman and DC Universe timeline. However, I do not understand why people find it as distracting as they do that much of the Batman's rogues gallery in this universe developed before the rise of the Batman. There really isn't that much of a concrete timeline in any specific source material as to how these enemies came about. It's always been open to interpretation from writer to writer, and being as there's no Batman show planned in this universe, they might as well make the most of the characters they have access to. It's a means to portray iconic villains and stories on TV and explore them like never before, and that's certainly an opportunity I'd never pass up, so why would they save them for a post-Batman world when we'll never get to see it? It's also very evident that this takes place in another dimension to most of the DC Comics media. Stylistically, Gotham is very distinguished with a 1950s sort of Art Deco look to it. If anything, Gotham proves that Gotham City stories can be just as intriguing, if not more so, without a Batman at the center of the story. I would honestly choose Gotham over any of the live-action iterations of Batman on film so far. Note, I said live-action though. Mask of the Phantasm, you can stay in the cool kids club. But let's wind the clocks back. I remember when Gotham was first announced. The general idea of this series was to center on the early years of Detective Jim Gordon and GCPD going up against different crimes throughout Gotham City in a pre-Batman world. This idea was met with much skepticism, including myself. Ultimately, would this not just be a cop show masquerading around as a comic book tie-in? Well, as talks and arrangements to get this on TV went on, what we got in the end was a full series that not only gave us a young Jim Gordon and the GCPD taking on crime in Gotham, the general story arc was for Jim Gordon to be finding the killers of Thomas and Martha Wayne, as well as the relationships he would build along the way with the young Bruce and Detective Bullock. But perhaps the big deal maker was the introduction of a few Batman villains into the mix. Before watching the pilot episode though, I was still pretty skeptical about Gotham. How entertaining could a Batman show without Batman really be? And what's up with Robin Lord Taylor as the Penguin? He's not a fat dwarf. Outrage. And a Cockney Alfred? The heck is this? Now I know what you're thinking, well, you suck, you have never read the comics. Well, here is my response to that. There is no the comics. There's about 1,000,000,001 different renditions of this character, and to expect me to have read and explored every single one, and to have liked every single one enough to want a very specific rendition to be interpreted onto a mainstream TV series, well, who has the time for that in this capitalist world? You see how ridiculous the whole the comics argument is. Well, I was taken by surprise, wasn't I? I ended up really enjoying Robin Lord Taylor as Oswald Cobblepot, and they generally made clear efforts to make their interpretation of this character iconic in a whole new way, with his funny spiky hair and his penguin-like limp, and I thought Corey Michael Smith was well cast as Edward Nygma, and I thought it was an interesting choice to have him start out working for the GCPD. As time went by, I really warmed up to Sean Pertwee's more Cockney Alfred and his naval background. But it was when he helped Bruce to beat up bully Thomas Elliot that I think Sean Pertwee really cemented himself as my favourite Alfred. His relationship with Bruce wasn't stuffy and full of moral discipline. Alfred's raising of Bruce was one that was highly supportive and democratic. There was kind of a learning triangle though between Alfred, Bruce, and a young Selina Kyle who witnesses the death of the Waynes. The two teach Bruce everything he needs to know about, becoming the Batman pretty much, but there was certainly a lot more tension between Bruce and Selina. As Bruce is a lot more compassionate and just wants to help her out too, where Selina can be quite abrasive and has goals of her own. It's an interesting contrast between a billionaire child and a girl who grew up on the mean streets. But there was a lot in Season 1 that I really wasn't expecting to enjoy, that I did actually a great deal. Fish Mooney, for example. Who the hell is Fish Mooney in the comics? Well, here she's an extremely intimidating yet charismatic crime boss, the Queen of Gotham, and she serves as Oswald Cobblepot's journey to becoming the Penguin very, very well. But what I think surprised me the very most was how interestingly the characters of Sal Maroni and Carmine Falcone were portrayed. They were extremely well performed and characterized, and to see the war between these two play out in the latter half of Season 1 and how Penguin developed among all this, growing more and more powerful, but still the pathetic weasel that the Penguin is, well, that's just damn good television. As well as this, Edward Nygma and his journey to becoming the Riddler started here, and what portrayed him as a more sympathetic character that was really just wanted to woo Kristen Kringle, what a name, and help her out of a toxic relationship. He was well-intentioned. I think Season 1's weakest character was definitely Barbara Kean, the fiancée of Jim Gordon. All she does is hold Jim back, get in the way, cheat, get herself into trouble. However, this is up until a very interesting twist and revelation at the end of the series, where it all transpires that she's absolutely nuts, in true Batman villain fashion as well. The finale set up a very exciting future for Gotham City, with Penguin's victory over Fish Mooney now crowning him the King of Gotham, and Bruce and Alfred discovering the Batcave, bringing Bruce several steps closer to fulfilling his destiny. Littered along the way were different Villain of the Week sort of characters, which gave the GCPD a lot to do along the way to uncovering the Wayne's murder, and certainly kept things well paced. The most notable of which is, okay, come on, you know what's coming here, Jerome Valeska. In the marketing they stated that this particular villain is no joke. And I wish they were kidding about that, to be honest. But he certainly fulfilled the Joker-shaped hole in people's hearts after passing of Heath Ledger. Jerome's story was that he committed matricide when he killed his own mother, Layla Valeska, in the circus after a lifetime of abuse from her. And it wasn't until he was interrogated by Jim Gordon and Leigh Tompkins that our goody-goody, butter wouldn't melt in his mouth kind of guy eventually transformed into Gotham's very first Joker. Cameron Monaghan absolutely nailed his first appearance as this character, so, unsurprisingly, he was brought back by popular demand for Season 2. And I have never seen any television series get off to quite such an outstanding start as Gotham Season 2, the first half subtitled Rise of the Villains. The opening 3 episodes are just the best beginning to any season I've ever seen. They are unmissable television. There's a new face in Gotham, Theo Galavan and his sister Tabitha Galavan, and they release a selection of inmates from Arkham Asylum and unleash them upon Gotham City to kidnap the mayor of Gotham in his final term, while keeping them under their very own control. The name of the team? The Maniacs, aka Better Suicide Squad. This team includes Barbara Kean and fan favourite Jerome Valeska taking the spotlight. Seeing Jerome unleashed upon Gotham for 3 episodes straight was an absolute treat, and Cameron Monaghan delivered an outstanding performance, truly earning the title of the Joker. However, I guess the show just wasn't ready for that just yet. It was at the Wayne Foundation Gala event where Jerome was killed on live television by Theo Galavan after holding Bruce hostage. Theo Galavan was now a hero in the eyes of Gotham with the support from Bruce Wayne. Theo Galavan cleaned up Gotham City, or so it seemed, and used this as his trump card for taking over Gotham City as its new mayor. What the citizens of Gotham did not realize and account for was that Galavan was a member of the cult of Dumas, and that his plans for Gotham were against everybody's best interest and involved a lot of death and sacrifice, including son of Gotham Bruce Wayne. And I gotta say, Galavan is one of the most intimidating and cruel villains Gotham has ever seen in any medium. And one of the show's most satisfying events was in the mid-season finale where Penguin, the GCPD, Alfred, Lucius Fox, and others all team up to save Bruce Wayne from Dumas and dispose of Theo Galavan, delivering the death he deserved. What I really think made all of this so satisfying was the development of character relationships along the way. Everyone had their own motivations, and there's nothing quite like a hero-villain team-up to, come against a common enemy. Edward Nygma also made a great deal of progress on his journey to becoming the Riddler after accidentally murdering Kristen Kringle, and realizing that he's just better off without the weakness of love, and preaching these lessons unto Penguin, whose beloved mother was murdered by the Galavans. Gotham returned with the second half of Season 2 dubbed Wrath of the Villains, which played host to a wealth of the Batman rogues gallery, including Mr. Freeze, Firefly, Clayface, to name a few, all of which were connected with a giant conspiracy in Gotham involving Hugo Strange and his experiments in Arkham Asylum, resurrecting the dead and his own legion of monsters. Jim Gordon is also put through his paces like never before, answering to the GCPD and his captain Nathaniel Barnes, and even sent to jail for the murder of Theo Galavan. As well as this, the Penguin is reformed in Arkham Asylum upon his release, and he finds his father and his new surrogate family. It is when his father passes away that Penguin's surrogate family reveal their true nature, but boy do they get their comeuppance when the Penguin feeds his stepmother their own children. The Penguin is back, possibly one of the most satisfying moments in all of TV, and as the story continues, Bruce goes on his own journey, with the skills that he's acquired to get to the bottom of his parents' murder. Along the way, he finds and forgives his parents' killer, and finds himself trapped in Arkham, having to answer to our now sadistic sociopath, Nygma. During all this, Hugo Strange's monsters are getting out of control, and it's a race against time for Bruce, Gordon, and Lucius Fox to escape the asylum before it self-destructs. We end the series with a spectacular cliffhanger, with all the monsters escaped from Arkham Asylum, including what looks like a newly resurrected Jerome Valeska, and the Penguin is confronted by a newly resurrected Fish Mooney, a satisfying end to one of the best seasons of television I have ever had the pleasure of viewing. This is a definite shift in tone, though, from Season 1 to 2, as the show becomes more villain-centric and takes a more tongue-in-cheek aspects from Season 1 to an extreme new level of twisted. Gotham is a more macabre House of Horrors event than it was before, and it definitely wears these new stripes very well. Moving on to Season 3, Mad City, Jim Gordon's ex-girlfriend Lee Tompkins is getting married to the son of Carmine Falcone after the absence of Jim Gordon. The Penguin is running for mayor of Gotham in a bid to run Fish Mooney and the monsters out of Gotham, while stuck in a love triangle with Edward Nygma and Kris Kringle that causes growing tensions between the Penguin and Nygma as things spiral out of hand. To make matters worse for Jim Gordon, the Mad Hatter is infecting the population of Gotham with a virus that corrupts them, called the Tetch virus, transforming Captain Barnes into the Executioner, while Bruce and Alfred are investigating a secret society called the Court of Owls. This all grinds to a halt, though, when a crazed cult led by Dwight resurrects Jerome Valeska, but not until after Dwight steals his face, after believing the resurrection to have failed. Jerome cuts the power to the city and drags Bruce Wayne into a nightmare circus to kill him ceremoniously and theatrically as possible, possibly after some persuasion of Bruce. The nightmare all comes to an end after Bruce throws down with Jerome Valeska, almost killing him in the process. He spares Jerome and swears off killing for life, while Jerome is taken to Arkham Asylum in a truly spectacular winter finale, where Edward Nygma finally gets his revenge on Penguin after the Penguin killed his new love. From the death of Penguin arose Ed Nygma's new persona, the Riddler, complete with a green suit and bowler hat. When the show returned in the second half of Season 3, Heroes Rise, the Penguin was resurrected by Poison Ivy, while Bruce, Gordon, and Alfred investigated the very dangerous Courts of Owls. Meanwhile, the Tetch virus of the Mad Hatter transforms Gotham into a nightmare. I won't lie though, I did check out over the Court of Owls stuff. Gotham has made such a name for itself with twisted, crazy House of Horrors television that the whole underground society conspiracy stuff just didn't feel like a good fit for the show, and the Tetch virus felt very outstretched after the Executioner plot had ended, which is why I would say the second half of Season 3 is probably as weak as Gotham gets. However, it is redeemed quite a bit by the birth of the Riddler, as the Riddler discovering his villainous persona and clashing with the Penguin is easily the highlight of Villain's Rise. On a whole though, I would say the highlight of Season 3 is obviously Jerome's return. Seeing Jerome's journey from boy to monster is some of the darkest and craziest stuff this show's ever had to offer, and it almost feels like you're getting your very first throwdown between the Batman and the Joker. Gotham Season 4 Dark Knight starts with Penguin as the mayor of Gotham City, granting criminals licenses to crime after the freezing of the Riddler at the end of Season 3. Bruce is training with Ra's al Ghul to become the Batman in his prototype Batsuit, which looks pretty weird, but pretty cool. Barbara Kean attempts to start her own business for weapons with Selina and Tabitha called the Gotham Sirens. Poison Ivy evolves. Sophia Falcone causes friction among the growing crime war in Gotham between Penguin and the Sirens. Penguin takes in a young ward called Martine, and everything hangs in the balance as Scarecrow and Professor Pig take over Gotham in some extremely wonderfully disturbing stories. Tensions grow between Bruce and Alfred after Bruce is forced to kill Ra's al Ghul, turning him into an abusive brat, frankly. The Riddler is thawed, but his mind has dulled, and he is eager to reclaim his previous intellect with the help of Solomon Grundy and Lee Tompkins, who has taken over Gotham's underworld, the Narrows. After being framed by Sophia Falcone for Martine's murder, the Penguin is returned to Arkham Asylum, where he enters a battle for supremacy with Jerome Valeska. Jerome Valeska, with the help of the Mad Hatter and Scarecrow, escapes from Arkham Asylum and enlists the help of the Penguin, Freeze, Firefly, and Grundy to take over Gotham and find his long-lost twin brother, Jeremiah Valeska, and enact his revenge. The Scarecrow manufactures a special toxin that bleaches people's skin and kills them with laughter, which Jerome uses as his secret weapon where he kidnaps the mayor of Gotham to get Jeremiah's attention. In the process of stopping Jerome, Jeremiah and Bruce become close friends until it is revealed that Jeremiah was the root of Jerome's insanity. Jerome's final actions before his demise bring out Jeremiah's inner insanity, and Bruce's new pale-skinned, red-lipped, green-haired nemesis is born, with a plan to completely level Gotham City into his very own kingdom. Jeremiah enlists the help of Ra's al Ghul and Bruce to enact his judgment onto Gotham City, but Bruce, the remaining Sirens, and the GCPD do everything in their power to stop Jeremiah's plans. They fail to stop the detonation in time, and Gotham becomes a no-man's land. It ends with the death of Solomon Grundy and Penguin's final revenge on Tabitha Gallivan for killing his mother. Wow, so a lot has happened in Gotham. I know that this is not a full comprehensive recount of the entire show, but that's what watching the show is for. I think there have been some spectacular stories and character developments so far, although I was quite critical of the whole twin brother idea with the Joker's origins and how Jerome Valeska almost immediately just became a lackey for Ra's al Ghul in the Season 4 finale, as well as a lack of jokes from him, making him just another mastermind. But I think the developments I was least fond of were Barbara Kean's transformation into a man-hating demigod, pretty much. What's quite interesting is the number of parallels between Jerome Valeska and Jeremiah Valeska. They're kinda one and the same in a number of ways. They both start off as goody-goodies, get sent over the edge, and buy into an ideology led by someone who sees something in them. It would be a heck of a poetic twist if Jeremiah were to get stabbed in the neck by Ra's. I mean, it's like poetry, you know? They rhyme. I think the saddest thing about the ending of Gotham is the birth of the new series Pennyworth on Epix. It really shows that Bruno Heller and co. were not ready to let go of the Batman stories just yet. However, I am hopeful there will be some great stories to come. I will say I'm very disappointed that it has no connection to Gotham, though. It may be just an attachment to Gotham and its cast, but I was honestly hoping that Pennyworth would pull an American Horror story and that the cast of Gotham would return, but for different roles, and that maybe there would be echoes of Gotham's future in the past. A character that fills a similar role as, say, Cobblepot or Nygma, for example. I do really ponder the point of this if it isn't showing the same universe as Gotham and won't be in the same style, but then again, it'll be a military-naval show, so what's the worst that could happen? It looks like it's aiming for a very different appeal, though, with a cast of very serious-looking actors. But I do remember all that nonsense about Warner Brothers not allowing Gotham to use the Joker because it would dilute the brand and cause confusion. Well, let's count now then the mainstream Batman universes. There's Gotham, Batwoman on the CW, Titans, Lego Batman, the DC Extended Universe, and now Pennyworth. That totals at a whopping 6 different renditions of the same world on screen within a 10-year space, and 4 on TV alone. Oh wait, I'm missing one. The Todd Phillips Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Yep, this picture sums up how I'm feeling right now. And it actually gets worse when you think about it. Doesn't Supergirl take place in another dimension to The Flash? And that it's been implied that Bruce Wayne and Batman do exist in Supergirl's universe as well? Well, we haven't seen that yet, so I can't complain. But it's not all doom and gloom. Trailers and promotional material for Gotham Season 5 are looking extremely exciting. Bruce and Jeremiah are about to throw down at Ace Chemicals, and perhaps our good pal Jeremiah will be taking the acid dunk that earns him his name. Although he looks like he's all the way to the completion of his Joker journey, to be honest. I'm also very excited to see him with Echo's version of Harley Quinn. And from the looks of things, we're in for another heroes and villains team up against Bane, who looks awesome. I've seen a lot of negativity leveled towards Bane's design, but honestly I think he fits right in with Gotham's larger-than-life visual aesthetic. It's all very 70s retro. It's somewhat at a point where I wonder, though, why does it matter that a Batman show is getting, its finish? There's never going to be a shortage of cartoons and Batman movies, but I never expected to grow this attached to the Gotham cast of actors and these incarnations of the characters. But does this legitimately have to mean goodbye? Well, there is one loophole in which Gotham could live on. You see, Jim Gordon is not the first role that Ben McKenzie has ever had in a Batman-related project. He's also provided the voice of the Batman himself in a DC animated movie, Batman Year One. I can imagine that this played a part in how he got the role of Jim Gordon. The DC animated universe has offered continuations to otherwise dead incarnations of Batman, including Adam West's rendition. They could do the same for Gotham with all the actors reprising their original roles, but in a world where Bruce is now the Batman. The groundwork for these characters is already there, and it would be fantastic to see this version of Gotham and its rogues brought into animation with no limits as to where they can go with the story. As well as this, there really is no reason why fans can't bring their own Gotham adventures to life. I had spent all of December trying to figure out what to treat my subscribers to for Christmas, and then on Christmas Eve it immediately dawned on me. You know that American claymation film, The Miser Brothers Christmas? Why not a Valeska Brothers Christmas, where Jerome and Jeremiah's sibling rivalry results in the death of Santa Claus, and the two take it upon themselves to save Christmas in their own very disturbing way. I'm guessing that's something that's just going to have to come in a later year though, I guess, because Christmas is clearly over now. Honestly, I feel like Gotham has had a huge cultural impact on the way many of us look at Batman and comic books now, and I would love to see more like it. And I don't just mean superhero shows, I mean escapist, Art Deco, black comedy-inspired 70s House of Horrors style storytelling. Well, that about wraps up my Gotham Season 5 pre-launch celebration. Channel Pub will be back with more Gotham content as soon as the season airs. And a final conclusive verdict on Gotham once all is said and done. For now, thank you to Primrose Hill Productions for 4 seasons of outstanding cult television. Now let's bring it all home with a spectacular 5th and final season. Here's to you, Gotham. Did you enjoy this video? How do you feel about Gotham, and what do you hope to see in Season 5? Sound off in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, Gotham fans, for helping my dream come true and finding an audience for my YouTube videos. You've been spectacular, but hold on to your hats, 'cause you ain't seen nothing yet.